Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, I want to apologize for the confusion this weekend. I didn't upload on Saturday like I planned to, and then I uploaded something on Sunday that wasn't this feedback video. So I'll talk about that at the end. So let's just jump right into feedback. And you'll kind of see the script up here a little bit. I'm going off to start off because of everything, but I want to talk about giving star level feedback. And again, this is something that you can take into your professional life or into your work life. I mean, you could use it for talking with friends and family as well, but those are a little bit different because they're on the more personal side of things. So anyway, the idea is that there is good ways to give feedback and there's bad ways to give feedback. So you can look this up, and a lot of businesses will do courses on it. There's different feedback models out there, but the one that I use is an adapted style of the STAR AR method. If you do a quick Google search for STAR feedback model, you'll see it and you can read that if you are interested in what the differences are. But I always found it a little confusing because they parenthesize some things and they say AR twice. I just want to keep it simple, and let's abbreviate it down to giving someone STAR feedback. So what does STAR stand for? It stands for specific, tactful, actionable, and realistic. So when you're thinking about feedback, are they meeting those four criteria? So when it comes to giving specific feedback, it should include all the details and provide clarity on what the message you're trying to convey is. When it's delivered, someone should be able to take away your main points and relay them back to you with ease. So a couple of very basic examples with each one of these, but bad feedback would just be saying, I don't think you did a great job stocking the shelves today. It doesn't help them. That just means that you're belittling them, or you're saying, hey, you did a bad job. But they have nothing that they can improve. They can't even go back in their head and say, well, what did I do wrong? But if you say something like, hey, Sally, when you were stocking the shelves earlier today, I saw that you were mixing the products by brand instead of keeping it all together. You're putting the brand flakes with the Reese's Puffs, and they're not supposed to be on the same shelf. They're supposed to be separated, right? That's specific. It's a silly example, but now if you say nothing else to Sally, Sally can at least say, hey, okay, I did something wrong, but I know what it is. It should be tactful. And that comes down to just making sure that you're respectful. You will convey your message much more effectively if you are respectful. I promise you, every single time. You also need to keep in mind the time and the place that you're doing it. If your environment matters and you're talking to a person, so be human. So don't be rude. Don't cuss. There are ways to give feedback that are much more professional. So as an example here, we'll just continue to use Sally throughout this whole thing. But if you just say, hey, you haven't done an effing thing right since you came back to work, and you do it in front of a customer of all things, I mean, one, Sally's not going to improve because she may just quit, because that's toxic. That's terrible. It's not good for anybody. She's not learning from that. A better version of tactful feedback would be, hey, Sally, I know you just came back, and it's tough to get back into the swing of things sometimes, but I need your help getting caught up on these things. And you do that like in a break room, or you do that when there is nobody else around. You're tactful because you're not trying to embarrass her. You're just like, hey, I need your help. And then you got to go back and be specific. These are kind of all building off of each other. So super important that you're tactful. If you are just being rude, you are not going to get buy-in from somebody. Actionable. This kind of ties in with being specific. I mean, they all tie together, but if your feedback isn't actionable, if they can't take what you've said and turn it into an actionable item or something they can do, the feedback is just words in the air. You've got to give them something tangible that you can follow up on. So a lot of jobs, a lot of things have different metrics that they go by. So let's just say for Sally, let's say, hey, your productivity is only X units per hour. You need to be at Y units. That's not actionable. It doesn't tell her how to get there. It doesn't give her any guidance of how to get there. It just says, you're here, you need to be here. That doesn't help. If you say, hey, Sally, I know it's been tough coming back to work, building on that conversation of earlier, your productivity is not where it needs to be. I've got a couple ideas, a couple of things that I do that will help you out. And that could be whatever. And then you give those things to her, like, hey, let's do it this way, in this order, using this guide to make sure that things go where they're supposed to go, whatever it may be. Boom. Now you've given her something she can actually take, and you've been specific, you've been respectful. So now we have an action going forward. And then last but not least, you've got to be reasonable. And reasonable is, at the end of the day, your feedback isn't practical. It can't be taken seriously. It can't be addressed. Your timelines, your expectations related to the result from your feedback need to be realistic. So again, talking about Sally, now that we've reviewed all the tips and tricks, I need you to finish every unit, all 10,000 of them in the next hour to make up for how slow you've been. Well, that's just not realistic. It doesn't sound very realistic to me, especially if she's already behind. Good feedback would be acknowledging the normal timeline and that you are behind. So, hey, it normally takes a full day to get this taken care of. Let's work through this the rest of today so you can practice what we've talked about. And then let's make it a goal by the end of tomorrow to get caught up. So essentially, you're giving twice the length of the normal expectation to do it, right? That seems more practical, more realistic. So all of that being said, this is where, if you are just here for the professional side of it and you're not interested in how it ties to this channel and Bungie and Destiny, this is just something that you can think about in your every day-to-day leadership and communication conversations. Those are really, really impactful, and following up with people becomes much easier when you follow the STAR method that I've outlined here today. Now, if you're in it from the Destiny and the Bungie perspective, which is what I know this channel is foundationally built upon right now, when we're talking about giving feedback to Bungie, when we're specific, if we say, hey, Bungie, the game feels bad right now, it's not that the feedback's invalid. It just doesn't give them anything to work with. Why does it feel bad? And you'll see that DMG says that in the comments when people say, hey, this doesn't feel right. He asks for details because he's trying to take something from it. And it's not necessarily our jobs to be professional communicators, right? We're just trying to play a game that we paid for and have fun. I get that. But if you want to be impactful, take the extra step and see if you can do that. So he's asking for specifics. Well, the game doesn't feel good right now, and then other people have done a good job of saying, well, the power grind is really bad. I did an activity 30 times and I've spent 20 hours playing the game over the last couple of weeks, and I've only gone up +5 levels between 450 and 500. Okay, so the rewards are not good. All right, that's more actionable. Now we can go to the drawing board and say, what was our original intention? And are they meeting it, or are we missing the pace here, right? And now they can do the rest on their own. If you want to be even more specific and give specific ideas, absolutely can do that. But just be specific about the problem. Tactful, again, and I've seen DMG do this on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. There is always a mesh of people who are very, very respectful and say, hey, I really don't like how this is feeling right now. Can we please address this? Because it just does not feel good. And then you've got other people who are like, game is ass, game is dead. And that's not helpful. It's not specific enough. Even if it is specific, say that, hey, the leveling system feels terrible. And then you go out and tell everyone at Bungie that you hate their guts and whatnot. Your cutout isn't going into a board meeting saying, hey, look at the feedback that we need to impact. Your cutout isn't going to go into that board meeting, and it's not going to get very far. Because at the end of the day, they're still people. Remember that. Please, for the love of goodness gracious, remember that they're still people. I guarantee that the developers have great ideas, and they're restrained with time, energy, effort, budgets, and ultimately whoever at the top or whoever within the hierarchy there is making decisions. I don't know who that is. I don't know if it's Tyson. I don't know if it's above him and it comes from the board. I don't know, but and we'll never will. Just the way that things are, chances are we never will. So you've got to understand that if the developers had free reign to just make what they wanted to, chances are a lot of your feedback would be mute. There would be no point. It would already be there. It is what it is. And I hate saying that, but being a bully online to the wrong people isn't going to get you there. If you think for a second that the devs at Bungie want you to be miserable, you're just wrong. You just are. There's just no reason, there's nothing in it for them for that to happen. There's no gain for them to make you miserable, I promise. Talking about actionable, this one, when you're talking to Bungie, again, this is just making sure that you give some specific ideas on what they can actually do. And actionable and reasonable really tie together when we're talking to a game studio. Because you got to remember, it's hundreds of people who have to come together to draft ideas, to create timelines, to actually create the product, to QA test it, to ship it, and they've got to get approval for every single one of those steps. And there's more than that, but that's the watered down version. If you say, hey, I expect there to be 6 raids a year and 6 dungeons a year for the current team, that is unrealistic. You are being unreasonable. You are never going to get that unless they forego every other piece of content in the game. It's just not possible right now. Now, if you say, hey, I really want to make sure that we don't ever fall below 1 raid and 1 dungeon per year with an epic raid and a Pantheon style event, I think that that's a reasonable expectation right now. Now, if the studio can go out and they can add another couple hundred developers and the player count increases, we can talk about reasonable expectations changing again, absolutely. But it is not reasonable or actionable to say, hey, fix your game by tomorrow. It's not actionable to go out and give us the Destiny 3 Forsaken of our dreams next year. It's just not possible. So we've got to keep our expectations in check. Realistically, in development terms, if we're talking about Renegades launching in December, that means that it's probably been content complete, meaning that it's playable from start to finish. It's probably been content complete if they're on a healthy development cycle since probably end of August, and I'm being optimistic. That's if they have a healthy development cycle. Now, based on what's going on right now with the Exotic mission launching on Tuesday, and a couple of weeks ago them saying, hey, it wasn't ready for Ash and Iron, it wasn't a time gate, that tells me the studio is more behind than we think they are. And that could be for a multitude of reasons. That could be because of Marathon. That could be because of the cutbacks. That could be because of budgets. That could be because of the changes they had to make on the fly to address the community sentiment around the power grind system. Those are all possibilities. You put them all together and you have an Exotic mission that, if it was launching this Tuesday, it should have been because they were time gating it, not because it wasn't done. That makes me a little concerned about where Renegades is at. We'll talk about Renegades in a separate video. I personally am voting that they delay it. I think that delaying it to the end of January is a good call, in the sense that if they launch it, and well, I'm not going to get into it. I'll talk about Renegades in a separate video. This is all about the feedback. So again, if you're going to give feedback to Bungie, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's what we do through this community, we're going to keep it as specific as we can. And again, it's not our jobs to know the ins and outs of everything, but we should try and keep it in mind. We're going to be respectful and tactful. It will go a lot further. Just candidly, it'll go a lot further if we do. There's a couple of content creators that I follow that I think do a good job of it. And, like Mactix, I will call Mactix out as a positive look at it. He's very thoughtful in his feedback, even when the game is as the community quotes, ass. He does a good job of giving specifics on what he's not liking, but also you've got to give some positive feedback from time to time, because there's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel, or it is just not worth it. That's just what it comes down to. Like, if I'm a developer and I go in, I'm going to put in 60, 70 hours a week on salary every single week, and I just don't think there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't think that there's ever going to be any positivity come from the work I put in, I'm not going to try very hard. It's just the way it is. It would be the same for your day job. If you go in and your boss or your customers treat you like crap every single day, even though you're working your butt off and they don't know what you got going on at home and they don't care, truthfully, eventually you're going to give up and you're not going to put your best foot forward. So remember, they're people, please. That goes for the content creators out there, like Mactix. I call him out. Again, I really like Mactix. He seems like a really good guy. I think that he's very well thought out in his feedback and very knowledgeable about the game. So I think that we could do a good job in modeling what he does. That's all I've got for feedback video today. I wanted to talk about the structure of feedback. Again, you can use this strictly for your personal life, or you can think about it from your professional life, or how we talk to Bungie. It's completely up to you, but I will get this up, and I'm going to break the upload schedule this week. I'm going to upload probably on Monday and again on Tuesday, and I may even upload again on Wednesday to upload the exotic mission. I do plan on playing that and being a part of that launch right away. So I'm actually pretty excited. It'll be my first piece of new content I get to upload with, like, on point. So that's all I've got. If you didn't catch it at the beginning, I did run into some issues this weekend getting the video out on time, and I apologize for that. The biggest reason was because I got involved in this like music production idea and started creating some music, which you have been listening to this entire time and you just didn't know it was mine. I created that this weekend. I do plan on putting it on Spotify and everything, and there's also a separate video which you can go watch. You'll get like the second half of it here in a minute when we close out the video, because it's going to be the outro. But anyway, if you guys like it, please check it out. I plan on letting it being used in content, but it is going to be uploaded, so it'll have like the content ID. Just make sure you credit me on the song, and it's free to use. I'm not going to take royalties, or I don't have any interest in doing any of that. So again, if you support it, great. I plan on doing more. So I really enjoyed it. It was fun. And just like that, I am back, because future James realized that I forgot to include my own outro. So here it is. Until we gather again, Guardians, please remember that you are responsible for the environment that you create, and don't ever underestimate your impact that you can have on others. See you soon.